I wanted to talk to you about the idea of building a great brand and what it takes to make it last. We've been around for 18 years. Actually, it'll be 18 years in October. Started as a small coffee roaster on the north side of Chicago. And now, by the end of this year, we'll have coffee bars in Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York, and about 1,000 wholesale accounts around the world. Well, mainly United States, North America, but around the world. And we currently buy from 20 different countries and spend time on the ground working with our coffee producers, paying above international fair trade prices, and developing coffees from the ground up. So, let's get into it. What do I think it takes to have a great brand? I'm going to point to some other companies that I admire and what they do, and I think it's something that's very intentional. The first thing I think to build a great brand is it requires conviction. What does that mean? Well, that means you do what you say you do, and you live by the principles you set out in your mission statement, and you live them every day, and you do those things consistently and transparently. Patagonia, to me, is a great example of this. It's a company I've always admired. I think they're upwards of $600 million a year now, and they went to all organic cotton in 1996, right? And I remember seeing this announcement, which was something like, yes, that's right, your t-shirts will now triple in cost, but this is the most heavily sprayed crop on earth. We need to do something about it, and we're going to push on it and be a leader in this. You read their catalogs now, and they say, well, this material, we're still not thrilled about it. It's not as environmentally friendly as we'd like. We want it to be better and better. We realize we want it to be waterproof, but still it does some damage to the environment. So they're like, we're doing well. We could be doing this better. So to me, to build a great brand, you really need to do something that has absolute conviction. People will see through it. People will see you as a poser, as a brand. So I think if you're going to construct a brand, do something that you can do with absolute and utter conviction, because that is something that will last. The second thing is unimpeachable quality. And in all these things, I had most recently given a talk about, somebody asked me, like, what's cool? And I actually think if you build your brand very, very well, it remains cool and timeless. An amazing example of that, and maybe we'll see a show of hands, is the Four Seasons Hotel. Who has stayed at a Four Seasons Hotel? Anyone? You guys are a little younger, I think, so you'll start getting there. But the great thing about, so the Four Seasons Hotel started as a motor inn in Toronto, which has surprised me. I was like, really? In Toronto, a motor inn? You know, I remember 1970. I was 4 then. So it sort of made a big jump when it moved into London, and it had to compete with some of these great old hotels. And what they decided is that they would have unimpeachable quality, service, and the most amazing culture. So now, if you see somebody, and if anybody has stayed there, or if you see somebody that's visited, that's been at a Four Seasons, nobody says, wow, that was really not cool that you stayed at a Four Seasons. I mean, if you say, people are like, where are you staying tonight? You say, Four Seasons. And whether it's, grandma that just went to see the opera and was in town, or, in a place like Los Angeles, somebody heavily tattooed that plays in a band, or, rock or whatever, and you say the Four Seasons, and people think of quality and this unimpeachable quality in everything they do. And if you've stayed there, the experience is such that you're like, wow, they really do think, they consider the guest in every possible way. And from, most recently, the coffee they serve at some of their locations, to what you find in their mini bars, to how soft the towels are, to the entire experience, it just smacks of utter quality. And as a result, you will see other, hotel chains come and go, to sort of rise to the top and be cool for a while and fade away. But I think the reason that the Four Seasons and brands like that last is because of unimpeachable quality. Another unimpeachable quality brand to me is a champagne called Krug. There's a lot of grower-produced champagnes, and you hear about Krug, and you look, it's like, oh, what are the top 10 champagnes of the year? When Krug wins 6, nobody goes, oh, they got too big, man, they got too big. They're losing, they're taking their eye off the ball in terms of quality. They continuously have great quality. So I think unimpeachable quality is a second characteristic you want to have to build a brand that is great and will last. I think that people see through a lack of authenticity today. There's plenty of invented companies and, hey, we thought about this when we were out on a hike or something like that. I think that brands that last actually have incredible very clear, again, transparent authenticity. To me, the brand that smacks of this is I'm not wearing them, but Levi's. I mean, to me, you look at the history of Levi's, it's jeans from the gold rush, and now these jeans are still perceived as being the highest of quality. The story behind Levi's is, this is the genuine article. We care about how it's made. It's carefully crafted. It's going to last. And they really stand behind it. How many of you have Dockers on? Not many, right? See, I feel like they kind of lost their way with Dockers. I thought that from the authenticity standpoint, you probably all remember this transition. They focused on Dockers, whenever the Casual Friday thing was happening. I'm not sure what that means. And then they moved much more intelligently to jeans again, right? And like jeans that fit you well. And hey, guess what? We make jeans. So I think that authenticity in what you do, in coffee, what we see folks sort of jumping in, jumping out to the category. And I guess what I'd like in terms of authenticity is, hey, we do work at origin in 20 countries. We actually do that legwork. If you don't, and you're a coffee roaster, or if you're a bar that doesn't make its own bitters, that's okay. Say, here's what we do, and do it well. I actually think that the public will see behind something that is not authentic and genuine. So, again, when you're thinking of authenticity, Levi's, authenticity is utterly critical to build a great brand. How many of you have a product now from J. Crew in the audience? Anyone? Some of you, right. So J. Crew is another brand that I think launched a catalog when I was in college, so a long time ago, right? And it was sort of the preppy brand, right? And now it's really reinvented itself as being on the cutting edge of fashion. They said, like, what we were doing wasn't working. We need to develop some stuff so we continuously stay cool in terms of what we're offering. And I really feel like they've done a great job if you go into their stores now, they've done an amazing job of innovating how the stores look, how they're approaching fashion. And they've gone from something that was really, preppy and then sleepy to now what I consider to be on the leading edge of what everybody goes to look for in fashion. So it is critical to continuously innovate and evolve. The tiring part about this as a brand is that as the owner of a brand, and let's say you have your own brand, just about when you're getting sick of looking at your logo, your colors, whatever it is your mission statement is, the sad news is that the public is just beginning to get it, okay? So that's the hard part, because you're out there racing like, oh God, we got to innovate, we got to continue to stay ahead of things. And then the public is still like chasing you, and they're a little bit behind it. So I guess what I'm suggesting is you do need to be patient so that the consuming public, the public understands what it is that you're doing, but you should always be working on what's coming next. Because I think you can look across, whether it's fashion or, of course, bicycle equipment. There's brands that just sort of fell asleep. And you wonder, gosh, whatever happened to, you can name countless names in the PC world where you feel like they took a nap for like 3 or 4 years. And they kept saying, oh gosh, this is our technology. And you're like, well, but that's like from 3 years ago. So they didn't continuously innovate and continue to evolve. We decided a long time ago that we were going to do what we said we were going to do. Because otherwise, it's just way too hard. I think integrity, whether you're a person or a brand, is the best thing you can have. It's the most valuable thing you can have. Because as a brand, and you've seen this before, when a brand sort of steps outside of what it does, it's sort of like a person you watch that's trying to construct their character versus being themselves. I think that, like I said before, you need to be able to do what you say you're doing. We say we work on the ground in 20 countries with producers, visit 1 to 3 times a year. We do. And we'd be happy to have anybody come and look at that. We say we work with them to move the coffee from off the tree through special processing that nobody else has. We do that, and we would invite anybody to take a look at it. We say we pay above international fair trade prices by 25%. We do that, if not better. So I think that there are countless opportunities to cut corners. There's countless opportunities to do things that none of you would ever notice. And for the most part, for a couple of years, you would passively not notice. And then suddenly, what we were doing would seem very different than what we were doing before. And there's been opportunities for us to cut corners that would have made us a lot more money. And here we are, people say, oh, look at you, look at how great you've done. And I'm like, yeah, but we've been at this for 18 years. I mean, Google started after me, right? I mean, so we're just, we're little pishers compared to where they are, So, but people, and I think that there have been many alluring opportunities from, hey, do you want to franchise what you do? Do you want to do, and every time we said, that's not something we've ever believed in, and that's not something that we're going to do. We're not going to start compromising these things now. So I think you have to operate with the utmost integrity, because again, the public is pretty smart. At first, they may be taken by some story you make up, but if you don't do it, eventually the word will come out. After all those things happen, and look at us, here we are, approaching our 18th year, which seems like a long time. God, yeah. I remember I thought I'd be done in 7, but it's still a lot of fun. After that happens, and you're successful, and people have heard of your brand, and they've seen you around, what happens is a lot of people like to do this. They like to poke at you and try and sort of figure out what it is, what is that? What are they doing wrong now? They must not be telling the truth about this thing or that thing. I mean, I don't know if they're really doing what they say they're doing. So once you've done all of these things and you've built your brand and you want to go on, from that point, I actually think the last piece to keeping it going is you need to be very, very deliberate. What does that mean? Well, that means that you have to decide where it is that you want the brand to go. What does this mean? Again, if you're successful, let's just say that, well, I don't have a desk phone anymore, but if I did, and there were people just trying to call and sell me stuff, which is what the desk phone amounted. Somehow they got through the phone tree, and it was somebody, have I got a stock for you? I'm like, well, would you buy any? And well, no. But anyway, I think you have to make your moves very deliberately, because there's going to be a lot of distractions. And which means go with an annual marketing plan, all those things, which my guess is if you're in startup now, you think about anyway. But there are going to be a ton of distractions of things you could do. And I think that after you have a brand that is well known and established, you actually have to make conscious decisions about where you really want it to go. Because there will be no end in sight as to how many opportunities come your way. And I think that I see a lot of companies in their 15th year, they become actually anything but deliberate. I think Apple is a very good example of a company that has been particularly deliberate. I mean, think about secrecy, think about release dates, think about continuously creating products that we seem to, that we had never dreamed of and now we can't live without. I think they've done an excellent job about, here's the launch date, we're going to be patient, here's what's happening, we're going to be patient. And I think that they don't send out things, before they're ready. So the last piece of the puzzle at really building and maintaining and having a brand that lasts is to be deliberate.